Hello, everybody, and welcome to another one of DCT's, the icing on the career cake. Today, I'm going to hypnotize all of you who are listening, and you're going to enjoy the entire podcast. Okay, so if we can start by just focusing for a minute, and there we are. You're all now enjoying the podcast. I hope you, when you open your eyes in the next 30 minutes, I hope you've enjoyed that. Actually, I can't possibly hypnotize anyone. I wouldn't have a Scooby-Doo's where to start, but our special guest today, Leonora, does. Hi, thanks for joining me and Diane today. How are you?
Good, thank you. And yes, thank you for welcoming and inviting me onto your podcast. Appreciate that.
Now, listen, hypnotism, it's one of those things that when I grew up in the 70s, 80s, a long time ago, it was, I don't think at that time there were a lot of people talking about professional hypnosis and clinical kind of hypnosis. It was mainly seen as kind of a TV show, spectacular form of entertainment more than anything else, wasn't it? But it's changed. The whole area of how hypnosis is seen has changed a lot, hasn't it, in sort of more recent times?
Absolutely. So yes, so there's a lot of clinical research that's been done, and so now people understand that it's not stage hypnosis. I can't make you cluck like a chicken. I can't control your mind. I can't get your PIN number to your bank card. I can't do any of those things. So yeah.
Can you help me remember my PIN number for my bank card?
I think I would need that myself, Graham. the pins to all of my IT programs. But no, I can't do any of those things, unfortunately. And it's just based on clinical research, and it's primarily to help people who are struggling in certain areas. So it definitely has a place. It's an alternative way of supporting and helping people who are struggling.
That's brilliant. Diane, I've got to ask you the question to begin with, because you've invited Leonora on to be on the program today. Have you ever been hypnotized?
Well, we had a little taster session with Leonora and with a group of ladies. So I would say maybe yes, no. I had a very good deep cleanse of the mind. I would say, when you come back around, you do feel like lifted, and you do go further into stuff. It was just a little bit of a taster, wasn't it, for like 20 minutes, half an hour. So it wasn't in depth, but yeah, you definitely felt refreshed from it and came to. So I definitely would say you went into your inner mind whilst we did it. So probably the answer to that is yes, I surmise right now.
Cool. Now we're going to talk in particular about sort of how this can help with things like smoking, vaping, etc. in a minute. And I want to talk to you about how you got into this full stop. But with that in mind, with what Diane's just talked about, what's the difference? And I hope I'm not putting you on the spot here, but what's the difference between just sort of deep meditation and hypnosis then? Is there kind of a parallel? Is there, are they very different?
So basically with meditation and hypnosis, it's all about being in that relaxed, calm state. However, with hypnosis, especially if there's something like a habit, like smoking or vaping, during the actual hypnosis session, I would be giving hypnotic suggestions to help the client make those changes. Now, with certain areas, I wouldn't be giving direct suggestions. It would be just helping the client to make specific changes that they've asked for. So, for example, if a client came to me and said, "Oh, Leonora, could you stop me eating chocolate for the rest of my life?" That's not something I would do because, we wouldn't want to stop somebody having the pleasure from having some chocolate, but at least maybe have one block instead of having a whole slab. So they could maybe make those changes. But both of them are just about putting yourself into a really calm, relaxed state. That's where the parallel is.
I've got so many questions for you today. So many questions. Well, the thing is, does it depend on the kind of person? Okay, that's one of the things that immediately springs to mind, because so I am one of those kind of people that I think I'm quite strong-willed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I decide to do something, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That I will just decide to do it. So, I mean, for example, I gave up drinking alcohol 4 years ago, and I literally just went, tomorrow I'm going to give up drinking alcohol.
Mm-hmm. That's brilliant. Well done.
Would you say you're a bit of a skeptic then, Graham? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, I'm not at all. Not at all. I wouldn't say I'm skeptical at all. I'm just wondering whether, I think for some people, they will spend forever trying something to some extent and then failing at it, etc. I've just got I've got that kind of mindset that says, if I'm going to do that, I am going to do that. But what I know, what I would say is, to be fair, what I can't do is halfway houses. So I wouldn't be able to do, I wouldn't be able to say, right, I'm going to reduce the amount of alcohol that I'm going to do, because what would happen is I would reduce the amount of alcohol for a while, and then I'd go back to drinking more alcohol again, right? For me, it's about just going, and like whatever it is, I just have to just completely do it, and set a time thing. And I think this is something to do with the way different people's minds work.
Well, absolutely. And so that's why, you know, for each person, we would have different areas that we would perhaps struggle with. So, for example, some person, you know, would not struggle to, say, resist a cheeseburger, a double cheeseburger and large fries every day. Whereas for myself personally, you know, I have to be very mindful of that because it's something that I struggle with. So it all depends on what your particular area is that you have, that you're struggling with, in order to make that change. And this is where hypnosis can help to, you know, it's all about putting the person in a calm, relaxed state. So I'm assuming as part of that question, you were asking, can everyone be hypnotized?
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, people often say, well, what does it feel like to be hypnotized? What does it actually mean? And so I suppose I would say, have you ever been driving along the highway, been driving somewhere, and you get from place A to place B, and you think, oh, golly, I don't remember how I got here. I know I made a left turn and a right turn, and I went through probably a few traffic circles, but I don't remember anything else, which is not the safest thing to do, but we've all done it.
Oh,
And
my word.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to drive about 80,000 miles a year, and that happens to you too often.
Exactly.
But it's quite scary, isn't it? You know, there's an element of scariness to it, which is why can't I remember that?
Yeah. And then another example for those who don't drive would be falling asleep in front of the television. And you kind of hear the television in the background, you're in that lovely slumber, and you just think, oh, this feels so good. That is hypnosis. That's what I would equate hypnosis to being like. It's all about just being in a relaxed, calm state. So when people say to me, well, I don't think I can be hypnotized because I'm very strong-willed, well, you have been hypnotized in the form of self-hypnosis if you've done any one of those two things.
There you go. Well, that's me when I go to the cinema quite often.
There we go.
Yeah.
And then it's just because you're in that relaxed, calm state, you can then, you know, it's about then allowing the subconscious to be ready to make the changes that you then need help with.
So
if I can put it in very simple terms.
no, it's very, very good. So what got you into helping people in particular with vaping and smoking? What sort of drew you to that?
So, well, maybe should we start with why I became a hypnotherapist, and then we'll go on to the smoking? Yeah, so I was working in the financial sector, and COVID caused a number of people to have a lot of stress and anxiety, and that's why there's a lot of people struggling at the moment as well. Myself, I started struggling with overwhelm, panic attacks because I'm asthmatic. And so the brain doesn't know the difference between visualizing something and reality. And all I was visualizing constantly was myself on a ventilator, not being able to get any air, or infecting my mum, who's quite poorly with COVID. And so that just led me to being extremely anxious and having panic attacks. And I didn't know how to help myself or what to do. And I saw a hypnosis, and I saw a hypnotherapist, and it really changed my life. So I could see the power in that. And then I decided to study to become a hypnotherapist. And why smoking and vaping is one of my niche areas is because my grandfather died of lung cancer. And I also have a number of family members who are smokers, and I can now see the health implications of that. And I just think if I was able to help them way back then, what a difference that would have made in terms of their health and their life. My grandfather probably wouldn't have died at age 69. And so that's why if I can help people and add 10, 15 years to their life, I just think that makes me feel good, and I'm helping them and their families at the end of the day.
Diane, quick one from you. Are we seeing a lot more people vaping these days? I mean, I'm not really into that culture at all, having never smoked, etc.
I think now, I know vaping probably is known to be better than smoking, as in less stuff. However, I think the way it's marketed, younger generation, you see so much more younger people vaping because it looks, cool. It's not as bad, and I think from what I've seen at times is parents accept that as well. Parents are a bit more lenient to kids vaping at the age of like 14, 15, whereas we wouldn't have been allowed to smoke. I think I tried smoking once and then set the fields on fire and never done it again. But I'm glad I never smoked, because I've got a bad chest the same, like I've got bad asthma, bad stuff. So, I probably would be really ill if I had to smoke. So I'm glad I didn't. But I think, something where Leonora's skills can come into the workplace is the productivity of staff. If I can go back to my McDonald's days, how many people would go on ciggy breaks, how many people would go out, but the people who didn't smoke would be like, well, are we getting a fresh air break? Are we this? Are we that? And it was like everybody was always say yes to the smokers for running out for 2 minutes for a quick cigarette, but they wouldn't let people go and just have like, a couple of minutes to themselves or whatever. There was always a battle in a store. It was always an argument. Now there's two ways of looking at it. If you didn't let some of the smokers go, then they wouldn't be working, because it's like they needed that nicotine fix to keep going. And, because they clock in and clock out, then it's help your labour costs. So if it was a quiet day, then you'd be happy. On a busy day where you couldn't really afford them to go, then there wasn't. So it was always a constant argument about that. I think some workplaces are maybe more stringent and more strict on when break and stuff with people, but I do think, Leonora's definitely got an opportunity to be able to work with people on that front, and help companies who may feel like it's an issue, and also want to help, put the well-being of the staff first as well, and giving people some help, because it's quite expensive as well now, isn't it? And the cost of living and everything that is going around now. I know you probably, the argument you would have, Leonora, is, oh, can't afford the sessions and this, but then the money that they're going to save in the long run afterwards, it's a chicken and egg type of scenario, isn't it? Type of thing. So, yeah.
Well, you're mentioning workplace well-being, and you've both mentioned sort of stress in there as well. So, is there quite a big correlation between stress and smoking, stroke vaping, as well?
What I find with a lot of the clients who come and see me, they think that smoking or vaping will help them reduce their stress levels. But what they don't realize is that that's a physiological impossibility, because every time they light up a cigarette or they take a puff of the vape, it actually increases their blood pressure and their heart rate. So it's actually adding stress and anxiety to their body. But then a lot of people say, well, Leonora, why does it feel like it helps me though? And so one of the myths that I have to bust is exactly what I've just said, but also is to say it's not really the feeling of that it's helping with the stress, but what it does is it alleviates the nagging. It's the constant nagging in your mind of, so if someone wakes up in the morning and they have the association of, I would vape or light up a cigarette with a cup of coffee, then you'll find the nagging starts. And then it's only when you have that cigarette that the nagging then dissipates. And then it's a constant nagging throughout the day. And that's why it's like, oh, I've just had one. Now I feel really good.
Is that what you would say, like the craving? So it tricks your mind into not having the craving for the vaping?
It's so a lot of people think that they're addicted to the nicotine. That's the nicotine that is the problem, and they think that's the chemical addiction. Now, when you light up a cigarette or you have a puff of your vape, you get a small nicotine high, but it's if nicotine was the problem, then why is it that if you go on an 18-hour flight, you can't smoke? You manage that. Why is it that someone who is a nurse or a doctor who has a 14-hour shift, they can't smoke or vape during that 14-hour shift? But the moment they walk out of the hospital door, they will light up or they'll take a puff. So it's not about that. It's about the habit.
Yeah.
That's the issue. And that's why I always ask clients, well, how many times do you lift a cigarette? Or how many times do you lift a vape to your lips? And so they'll say, well, maybe 300 times per day. And then I say, well, what else do you do 300 times per day? So it's all things that our subconscious handles: blinking, breathing, coordinating our muscles. It's all of that. And that's why it's a stored habit in our subconscious. That's the issue, not our addiction to the nicotine.
So if it's about habits, when people come to you and that you work with them to kind of break that habit, are you helping them to break habits, full stop, in a way?
Exactly. So it's almost, if I could put it in terms of, if you imagine the subconscious and you have a button or draw on your subconscious, smoking or vaping, and it's all the associated triggers. I vape every time I'm stressed, when I have a cup of coffee, I smoke, I go out for a break, whatever that is. All of that is in that smoking or vaping box. And so with the hypnotic suggestions, what we are doing is we are reframing or cutting out that habit. And it's like pressing a reset button. And so you then are able to overcome that habit or get rid of that habit and build a new pathway, a new habit.
And is it about, I was just going to say, sorry, Diane, I was just going to say, is it about building positive habits instead of negative habits per se?
Yes.
Because otherwise, with a lot of people, it's similar to dare I say it, dieting as well, right? What happens is that somebody gives up something, but then takes up something else, or
That's right.
they give up smoking, but they take up food, or
yeah.
Yeah,
It's the habit putting something to your mouth, isn't it? So then people
that's
be putting
right.
food.
That's right. And an interesting thing is, I never knew this, and before I did my master practitioner, is I didn't know that tobacco leaves were soaked in sugar. I didn't know. Well, I now know that there's also, obviously, in the flavorings with vapes, there's a sugar content. So when people say, but Leonora, I feel like I'm missing something, or if they're irritable, they're grumpy after they've stopped, it's not because of the nicotine, it's because of the deprivation of sugar. And so one of the top tips that I then give all my clients is for a minimum of 2 weeks to overcome that deprivation of sugar, because we don't want them to go from the habit of this hand movement of the smoking of vaping to then popping candy or sweets or chocolates. So it's the top tip is to have a couple of pieces of fruit in the fridge, and just to overcome, getting that sugar fix, but natural sugar.
Wow. You never knew there was so much in a vape. They are.
That's it. Lots of chemicals. It's the
Yeah.
chemicals in the vapes that are the issue, because a lot of people, I ask them, what do you think is in your vape? And they say, bit of nicotine, water, flavoring. That's it. And so this is the issue is, public health has said, well, vaping is a healthier way of stopping smoking. But what people don't know is what are in their vapes. And these vapes are coming in from China, and is all of these chemicals. And that's what the issue is. That's what's going to cause the health implications.
Yeah.
Sugar's one of the worst things to be having, though, isn't it? You're looking at your gut health and things like that. I look at something called Centeno as well, gut health. Like sugar is like one of the main causes for most elements that we develop in our body. Is probably one of the worst things we can have, isn't it?
Yeah. And there's sugar in so many of our foods, and it's too much, isn't there? So absolutely. So we don't want clients then substituting. So it's all about giving them top tips to help them through and overcome. And it's also being able to drink enough water as well to help the body flush out all of those toxins. We always say drink at least 2 liters of water in those first 2 weeks to help, because the body's amazing. It starts healing itself straight away. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of misconceptions about. Sorry, Diane, go on.
When we used to teach time management, we talk about habits taking 21 days to form a habit.
That's right.
So would you say on average it takes like 3 to 4 weeks for people to overcome their bad habits? Because it can take longer to break a bad habit than it can to form a good habit, can't it?
Yeah, so I generally say to my clients at least a minimum of 2 weeks, because I give them a recording to listen to, but if you feel you need longer than that, because there is research to say exactly what you just said, Diane, a minimum of 3 weeks, to form that new neural pathway in terms of forming a new healthy habit.
Yeah.
So I do agree with that. Just to replace old behaviors with new behaviors, new ways of doing things. Absolutely.
Yeah. I've always found it really important that if you're going to give something up, you need to take something up.
That's right. Something positive.
Something positive. Yeah. I mean, if you fill your day or you fill your time with something else that's a positive behavior, then actually you spend less time thinking about the negative behavior as well. Is that right?
That's right. Because a lot of clients, interestingly enough, say they smoke or vape when they're bored. You say, well, okay, so what else could you do instead of that? What else could you do that would be actually that you'd find enjoyable? And then it's exactly that. They come up with the choice. What do they find good? What puts a smile on their dial?
Well, look, I'm going to say that, I mean, this is actually music to your ears, isn't it, Diane? It's half the problem here. Very quickly, going slightly away from the hypnosis for a minute, but it's half the problem that we've got a nation of people that are bored at work. Should some people be looking at alternative jobs?
Yeah, definitely. You know, I think if you do a job that you love, it doesn't feel like you're working. So, you know, the time flies, and before you know, you're going home. So, yeah, I think people should look at other aspects of their life. You know, the vaping's probably, you know, a reaction to other things. You know, they may be unhappy with work, they're unhappy with themselves, or it's probably deeper rooted problems, isn't it? As to, you know, why that comes about, as to, you know, people being bored in life. So yeah, definitely I would look at, you know, are you bored of doing your job, so you're just going out to have a bit of socialization within your job, to go outside and speak to people, or is it the other way around? There's too much socialization, so you want to go away for a bit of peace and quiet and walk away from the crowds in your job. There's two different things, isn't it? You know, everybody has their own levels of what they can handle, the amount of people in their life.
Yeah.
How does what you do compare with other methods of quitting smoking? So, you know, sticking the patch on the arm, or
yeah, exactly. So with nicotine patches, so the first question I'll say, well, if you're getting all the nicotine you need, why don't nicotine patches work? It has a success rate of, they say, 15 to 20%, which is really low. And it's because it's not helping the client overcome the problem of the habit. That's the difference. And, you know, Champex is all of these pills that are available. Once again, you're popping a pill, but you're not actually getting to the root cause, and that's the habit and the associated triggers. So that's what you've got to help the client with at the end of the day.
Yeah. Unless I suppose you developed a habit around picking at the patch or something like that, but that's not going to be necessarily very helpful, is it?
No.
So take us through, right? I come to you today. I've been smoking, or I've been vaping. You know, what would be the kind of process that you would take me through?
Yes. So the first step would be, I have to make sure that I'm not going to be just doing a session because someone's mum or someone's wife has sent the client to me. At the end of the day, you the client, you have to be committed. And so that's the first step in that initial telephone call, Zoom call. We'll discuss that. If the client goes, I'm probably 70% there, then that's okay. You know, I can give you an ebook with some tools and techniques to try and get you ready. It's only when the client says to me, uses language like, that's it, I'll never ever touch another cigarette or vape again, I'm 100% there, Leonora, then I'll book them in for a hypnosis session. But before that hypnosis session, I also send a form where the client will answer questions, because I tailor every session I do specifically to each client, depending on what their triggers are, the reasons why they want to quit. So that's another way where I work quite differently. Then we do the hypnosis session. And then the other part is, I don't just leave clients to then go, okay, now you're on your own. That's it. So if a client follows the instructions that I give them and they're still finding it difficult, they're still struggling, they then give me a call, and I will do some NLP techniques with them to help them overcome that little bump. So when they work with me, there should never, ever be any excuse to, and I know I'm going to use the language of a poisonous stick or a poisonous vape, but that really is that they never, ever, ever put that to their lips again.
Yeah. You mentioned NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. How much of what you do is involved around NLP?
Yeah, so the technique that I did my master practitioner in is called the Breathe Quit technique. And it's a combination of NLP, CBT, and hypnosis. So it uses a number of tools and techniques because it's all about getting the subconscious ready. If the subconscious is now accepting, committed, and I can then give the hypnotic suggestions, then it works.
Oh, there you go.
Could you argue though, Leonora, if people have got to be fully in the mindset to want to do it and they fully need to do it, then they should just be able to do it without any help? So wouldn't you think some of these maybe more like 80%, they mostly want to do it, but they just need that helping hand, but they not be the people that you would help more?
Yeah. So when someone's using language like, well, I think I can do it, I think I'm ready, what we don't realize is clinical research also shows that our brain listens to what we say. And so if we are saying that out loud or we're thinking it, then the subconscious is not going to be fully there yet. And so you need to be saying, that's it, never again. And that's really, really interesting. I found that fascinating, that our internal dialogue has such an impact on our ability to make changes.
Yeah. You could apply that in life, really, couldn't you? You've got to have that positive.
Yeah, and that's why some people can quit cold turkey, because they then are in that frame of mind where they go, no, done, dusted, which probably happened with you, Graham, right? You were like, that's it, no half measures for me, done. And that's kind of what you need. And then you make the small steps to that overall change.
I guess some people, I mean, no different really in some respects from how business owners need mentors or guidance and support from certain other people, etc. I guess some people are completely able to do this on their own. They've made their mindset up. They've got their psyche and whatever to a point where they're going to follow through with what they're saying they're going to do, etc. Other people, they've made their decision. If I'm reading this right, they've made the decision that this is what they're going to do, but they still need someone to take them through that process.
So, without going into too much detail, there's the conscious part of our brain and the subconscious part. Now, the subconscious is also referred to as the monkey brain, the lizard brain, right? And when we are functioning or operating from that lizard brain, it's also a negative brain. And when you are in that frame of mind, then it's quite difficult to look at an issue or look at a habit or whatever it is we want to do, logically assess, evaluate, and make decisions, and then go, I'm going to do A, B, C, or D. However, if you are operating from the conscious part of your brain, very positive brain, you can look at everything logically. And you can go, well, in order to make that big change, I need to do A, B, C, D. If that doesn't quite work well, I can make a few adjustments. And that's why you get some people who can make the change easily without any help. And it's because they're operating from that conscious part. And generally when you're operating, people are operating from the conscious part of their brain. They also have a good handle on stress, the way they handle stress. They're sleeping really well. Everything's just fitting in perfectly. But if one of them is out of sync, then it's more difficult. So for the business owners,
I never don't sleep because of stress. That's true.
Yeah.
That is the kind of person that I am. Whereas other people in the family, I do know. Yeah, well, if they're stressed, they're like, oh. So Can you share a success story with us? Talk to us about, someone that you've taken through this, or a story around someone that you've taken
Yes.
through this.
Actually, I'm going to be doing a post on LinkedIn probably later today or tomorrow morning. I've got the go-ahead from the company. So this was a gentleman who I helped a year ago, just a little over a year ago. And he had tried practically every single method: nicotine patches, Champex, cold turkey, and he just never managed to do it on his own. And he did a hypnosis session with me, and on I think it was the 15th of June, it was a year anniversary that he is now a non-smoker. But because he had had such good results, he's also a business owner, and he decided that he would help and pay for all smokers and vapors within his company. Wow. And the company has just really had good results. He's seen a turnaround in those particular staff members. They have less stress, less anxiety. I've given them a lot of tools and techniques in terms of breathing, how to cope with stress and anxiety, rather than the smoking and the vaping. And he just says it just seems to be a happier, more positive environment. So I would, that I think for me has been probably one of my success stories, definitely.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you so much for that. Last time when we were on talking, Diane, one of the things that we mentioned was imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Leonora, have you had, or can you see any correlation between people that suffer imposter syndrome and people that struggle with habits?
Yes. So imposter syndrome is when you want to be, it's perfectionism at the end of the day. Everything has to be 100% perfect. The other thing is, these are people who are generally have exceptionally good positions within companies. You'll find 9 times out of 10, other people would look at them and go, my goodness, are they talented? My goodness, they do so well. But they are very, very critical of themselves. So once again, it's that internal dialogue, which is not necessarily true, but for that person, they can't, the brain doesn't know the difference between visualization and reality. So if that person is visualizing that the seminar that they've just given is not perfect, yet in everybody else's eyes, that was great, but they have this negative internal dialogue, then that's what leads to that imposter syndrome. And so it's helping someone change that internal dialogue from being negative to positive. And there's a number of ways you can do that. And that makes the difference.
I'm going to bring the football in here. Sorry to do this to you, but it's been all over the place, and nobody can have missed it really. But it was quite interesting listening to some of the England team talking about taking those penalties at the end of the last match, and we've not done well in penalties in the past. Mm-hmm. But those youngsters stepped up, and we scored 5 penalties in a row, and it was interesting, especially listening to Saka talking about it. A journalist asked, "Did you not think about, did you not have it in your mind about the last time when you missed that penalty in the last tournament?" And he went, "Not at all. My head was completely in, this is what I have to do now." And it was completely in this moment.
Absolutely.
Never even occurred to me. Is part of what you do is almost kind of take people into a very now moment, as opposed to...
Absolutely. Because the past affects how we think And if we're thinking negatively, thoughts lead to emotions, emotions lead to actions. So
almost sounds like something out of Star Wars, doesn't it? You know.
Here we go. Here we go. But exactly
Force
that.
leads to the dark side, yes.
The answer is just don't think. Don't think, just do.
Just do. That's right. But it's exactly that. So, you know, if the footballer was thinking of the last time I missed, and he's bringing that into now, he's going to have all of those emotions. Emotions make us react in a different way, even though he would have practiced and practiced and practiced. But if emotions get in the way, you are going to have a different outcome.
Yeah.
And
so it comes back to having a positive mindset and
absolutely
having a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset, and constantly challenge yourself to be better.
That's right. And if you can just visualize, that's it, you know, I'm going to do this. I mean, how many times, so somebody like Tiger Woods has had hypnosis, and it was all about, you know, I'm going to be winning this. I'm going to be the world's best. And that's all he did.
There you go.
And, you know, that's
Listen,
the difference.
it's been brilliant talking to you today. So for anybody that's out there and is skeptical, just think about those 5 England goals. Right. And you know, if you need that kind of mindset, perhaps you need to go and see Leonora, and she can help you with that kind of mindset. And if in particular, if you're struggling with the old cigaroonies, then you know, do get in touch, and she can help you on that path if you're willing. I think that's the key. You've got to be in the right mindset to a certain degree as well. You'll need the help, but you need to be in the right place to actually move forward. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Just one quick question before we go, Graham. Sorry, Leonora, does it have to all be in person, or can it be done online?
It can be done online, yes. Okay. So I've worked with people in Dubai, Germany, South Africa. Wow. So yeah, absolutely. And there's no difference, because sometimes if someone does it on Zoom, they're more relaxed in their own environment, their own home. And that you know, can also have very, very positive results. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. There we go.
Because this is quite national, doesn't it, Graham? So people might have just been thinking it was based here, but yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. If people are interested and they want to get in touch with you, where's the best place for them to go?
Yeah, so they can go onto my website, Leonora Paul Hypnotherapy, or they can contact me on contact@leonorapaulhypnotherapy.com. And you know, I'm terrible. I can never remember my mobile number. It's one of those, I don't know why the number doesn't stick.
You can get hypnosis for that.
Absolutely. It seems like I shouldn't I? But my contact number is on my website. And what I do offer is free consultations or chats. And so, you know, that can also just put somebody at ease, and they can first chat about it to me, see if I can help, and then we can take it forward.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks, Diane. Thanks, Leonora. If you're interested, please do get in touch. I hope you've enjoyed another episode of DCT's podcast, The Icing on the Career Cake. We'll be back again soon with another one. Until then, bye for now.